My name is Bruce Scherer. Last name is spelled S-C-H-E-R-E-R. I'm a parent at MLC, and I have some concerns about education policy. From Diane Ravitch's book, Reign of Error, Chapter 1, Our Schools Are at Risk. In the early years of the 21st century, a bipartisan consensus arose about educational policy in the United States. Right and left, Democrats and Republicans, the leading members of our political class and our media elite seem to agree public education is broken. Our students are not learning enough. Public schools are bad and getting worse. We are being beaten by other nations with higher test scores. Our abysmal public schools threaten not only the performance of our economy, but our national security, our very survival as a nation. This crisis is so profound that half measures and tweaks will not suffice. Schools must be closed and large numbers of teachers fired. Anyone who doubts this is unaware of the dimensions of the crisis or has a vested interest in defending the status quo. Furthermore, according to this logic, now widely shared among policy makers and opinion shapers, blame must fall on the shoulders of teachers and principals. Where test scores are low, it is their fault. They should be held accountable for this educational catastrophe. They are responsible because they have become comfortable with the status quo of low expectations and low achievement, more interested in their pensions than in the children they teach. In response to this crisis, the reformers have a ready path for solving it. Since teachers are the problem, their job protections must be eliminated and teachers must be fired. Teachers' unions must be opposed at every turn. The hoops and hurdles that limit entry into teaching must be eliminated. Teachers must be evaluated on the basis of their students' test scores. Public schools must be evaluated on an objective basis, and when they are failing, they must be closed. Students must be given choices other than traditional public schools, such as charter schools, vouchers, and online schools. In Hollywood, films and television documentaries, the battle lines are clearly drawn. Traditional public schools are bad. Their supporters are apologists for the unions. Those who advocate for charter schools, virtual schooling, and school choice are reformers. Their supporters insist they are championing the rights of minorities. They say they are leaders of the civil rights movement of our day. It is a compelling narrative, one that gives us easy villains and ready-made solutions. It appeals to values Americans have traditionally cherished: choice, freedom, optimism, and a latent distrust of government. There is only one problem with this narrative: it is wrong. Public education is not broken, it is not failing or declining. The diagnosis is wrong, and the solutions of the corporate reformers are wrong. Our urban schools are in trouble because of concentrated poverty and racial segregation. But public education as such is not broken. Public education is in a crisis only so far as society is, and only so far as this new narrative of crisis has destabilized it. The solutions proposed by the self-proclaimed reformers have not worked as promised. They have failed even by their own highly valued measure, which is test scores. At the same time, the reformers' solutions have had a destructive impact on education as a whole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our last two speakers, Greg Burrill and Margie Brown.
I'm Greg Burrill, B-U-R-R-I-L-L, and I hope you enjoy our book. Far from being progressive, these changes strike at the heart of one of our nation's most valued institutions. Liberals, progressives, well-meaning people have lent their support to a project that is antithetical to liberalism and progressivism. By supporting market-based reforms, they have allied themselves with those who seek to destroy public education. They are being used by those who have an implacable hostility toward the public sector. The transfer of public funds to private management and the creation of thousands of deregulated, unsupervised, and unaccountable schools have opened the public coffers to profiteering, fraud, and exploitation by large and small entrepreneurs. As a historian of American education, I have seen, studied, and written about waves of school reforms that came and went. But what is happening now is an astonishing development. It is not meant to reform public education, but is a deliberate effort to replace public education with a privately managed free market system of schooling. Public education, established in America's towns and villages in the mid-19th century, born of advocacy and struggle, is now in jeopardy. This essential institution, responsible for producing a democratic citizenry and tasked with providing equality of educational opportunity, is at risk. Under the cover of choice and freedom, we may lose one of our society's greatest resources, our public school system, a system whose doors are open to all. I was not always a critic of test-based accountability and choice. For many years, I too agreed that our public schools were in crisis. I wanted them to be far better. I worried about the content of the curriculum. I worried about low standards for students and for teachers. As a graduate of the public schools of Houston, I was an ambivalent supporter of school choice and certainly had no desire to replace public education with a voucherized, privately managed system of schools. In 1991 through 93, I served as Assistant Secretary of Education in the administration of President George H.W. Bush, and I was in charge of the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Educational Research and Improvement. I was a strong supporter of standards, testing, and accountability. It was only after I saw the corrosive effects of No Child Left Behind that I reconsidered my long-held beliefs. In 2010, I published The Death and Life of the Great American School System, How Testing and Choice Are Undermining Education. In that book, I recanted my earlier support for what is now known as the reform agenda in education. High-stakes testing, test-based accountability, competition in school choice, charters, and vouchers. When the book appeared, it was widely reviewed, hailed by most experienced educators, and predictably scorned by advocates of these policies. Thank you.
Thank you.